Welcome to the GSMC Pets Podcast, the show that caters to pet lovers of all kinds. We'll talk about pets on social media, pets doing amazing things, and how to take care of the pets in your life. Whether your pet is a dog, a cat, a llama, hamster, reptile, or something more exotic, you'll find educational and entertaining information on the GSMC Pets Podcast.
Howdy, and thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Pets Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Sam, and my co-host, Eisen, is wandering around somewhere, probably looking for food, because he got upset that I was not letting him have my sandwich. So, it's going to be a little bit catless today, but that's okay, because we are going to actually be talking about ducks, because I was kind of inspired by this entire duck family that was like trying to cross the road today, or not today, I'm sorry. These days are going to like come together, it feels like. But they were just crossing the street, and this truck had actually blocked a path for them to just cross the street. And it was very nice to see that. But yeah, maybe you want to research this a little bit more. And for the most part, ducks can be pets. I actually had a student in the past where she had a duck, and she had so many pictures of it, and he was wearing a big old diaper because, well, we'll get to talking about that. But she didn't really talk much about what else was going on with ducks. She mostly focused on the things that were fun. And okay, that's great. But there's a lot to talk about when it comes to ducks being a pet. Same thing with what we were talking about last time with goats being pets. There are so many things that you have to consider. It's not like having a dog or a cat or a hamster. Pretty much not. So we are going to be talking about ways that we can benefit from ducks. We're going to talk about ways that they kind of put a damper on things, and you really have to consider what exactly is going on with these ducks, prior to adopting them. And, well, of course, you gotta find out what kind of food and how do you care for it. You need some source of water, all that kind of stuff. We're gonna be talking about that all together for this episode. So, let's get started. But you know what? Let's start with a little story of my childhood. It's actually a book story. And it was the first book that I had ever tried reading. And it was called Duck's Truck. And I loved flipping through the pictures and just kind of trying to read the words. And it was on our bookshelf for many, many years until it disappeared. And I have to say, maybe I should just come out and say this. I absolutely love ducks. I think they're adorable, and they waddle a lot, and it's cute, but they're also kind of messy. But that book was probably the start of my entire love for ducks. Now, the thing is that, well, there's a lot to get from having a duck, and also things that you kind of lose when you are looking for a duck companion. But let's first talk about like the good stuff. So for instance, there is like an abundance of eggs that you can get. Like they lay more eggs than chickens. Seriously. And their eggs are much bigger than that. And I'm not going to say that they're healthy or anything, but they do probably taste a little bit different in comparison. I don't know if it's a different good or a different bad. I have yet to have a duck egg, so maybe in the future that could be something I strive to do. But yeah, they They lay eggs, and you can either keep them for yourself, or if you want to make a little bit of extra income, you could always see if your neighbors wanted to buy some duck eggs. And, well, where I'm at, when you go down to the countryside, like, there are little, what would you say, shopping huts, where there's maybe a farmer there that's selling, like, tomatoes, corn, that kind of stuff. They might have ducks, which is pretty cool. Well, duck eggs, which are pretty cool. But aside from the monetary gains, there's also this wonderful thing of just seeing ducks kind of grow up from where they just hatch and they start growing. And they are absolutely cute. I mean it. I used to live in an apartment complex that had geese and ducks, and it was just, when spring came along, you saw those families of poultry, basically, and they would just be the most adorable thing in the world. And then they gradually grow up, and ducks would be ducks, which are still cute, but then the geese would become just really angry creatures. I'll say that. But in addition to that, they eventually do grow up. And there's still going to be some entertainment value because, well, ducks do some really weird things. I remember seeing basically a duck dunking multiple times in the little retention pond that we lived close to. And, like, he'd just kind of swim around first and then duck, and he would always duck whenever, like, a goose came near him. So there's a little bit of tension that you kind of gather there. And I'm not going to say that it's easy to have a duck, but you do have options when it comes to, like, duck food and just caring for them. Because, I mean, ducks are pretty memorable, actually. And I always, for some reason, think back to, well, Babe the pig, and his duck friend who ended up being a meal. And I remember that part of the movie kind of made me sad. But yeah, like, you can have ducks basically in any form if you want. If you wanted to cook one of the ducks, hey, that's you. You have the guts for it? Definitely do it. Other little treats from ducks? Sure. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about my ethnic background. And, well, in the Philippines, they actually had a delicacy called balut. And that's all I'm going to say about it. But ducks have some, like, place in society when it comes to food. Same thing with hens and, well, chickens, not roosters, but there are different types of food related to different types of poultry. And I just want to kind of try it all. And I know that you guys are probably going to look up what balut is. And it's a delicacy. That's what I will say. And there's something that is just good about it. People like it. But anyway, some other things that we can definitely talk about when it comes to, like, well, the great part about ducks. Like, again, they are actually a great source of manure. And I basically should just come right out and say it. They poop a lot. Like, there's a number of times during a day where they just poop everywhere. And that means that you actually get some pretty good manure for, if you wanted to do some gardening or anything like that. But, oh my gosh, so much poop. I definitely see the benefit of that. And I guess to some extent you could also say that ducks are probably better to keep than chickens, because chickens like to destroy, like, little gardens and beautiful plants. And, well, the duck kind of leaves it be, at least. So landscaping is perfectly fine with ducks. Chickens, not so much. So, do you want to have a chicken farm, or do you want to have a duck plus a garden? That's totally up to you. And, I mean, they also do consume a lot of bugs in your little grassy area that you keep them. I mean, That's gotta be for something, right? I hate bugs. Oh, I'm sorry, I did a Bug's Life a few episodes ago. Well, bugs make me uncomfortable. And if I have a pet that will help me not face this fear that I have, then I will definitely go for it. But that kind of leads us to, some things that we do have to consider. Like, ducks are ducks. They're always really cute. They are funny to watch. And honestly, just kind of goes back into, like, at least my generation's childhood. Like, there was DuckTales, there was, what was it? Daffy Duck, Darkwing Duck, and maybe some of you guys know this, but, there was a show called Wonder Pets, and it had, like, a little chick. Was it a duck or, I think it was a duck, yeah. And it was, like, Ming Ming, and it was just a very adorable kind of show. So that kind of feeds into, like, oh my gosh, ducks are so cute. Because they're represented in a very, cute way. Except for, Donald Duck, who throws massive tantrums. But, that's neither here nor there now. Alright, there was Daffy Duck, too. And he was a real jerk, actually. Man, how could I forget that guy? But, like, outside of any other duck that I can recall, except for Scrooge when they were doing the winter special, the Christmas special, I mean, I have not seen animated versions of ducks that were jerks. So, I'll go ahead and say that, maybe ducks are kind of the best to have for a pet. But, hey, I don't really know. I mean, I know the good stuff. I've seen the pictures from my student and the little videos of it running around and stuff. But, well, there's just so much to consider here. Especially, and I remember this now, that my student's pet duck didn't really live very long. And it kind of goes into the question of, well, how difficult is it to have a pet duck? What do you need to prepare for? And, well, should you have a house of your own, or could you be in an apartment complex? Those are things that you gotta consider. But we are going to go on, I guess, a short break. And we're going to talk more about, well, definitely the cons of ducks, having them around, and also just kind of the difficulties that you face because you have a duck in your home or in your apartment complex. Gosh, my student was actually the one that had the duck in her apartment complex, and do they allow that? I have never seen in any apartment information packet about having ducks in your household. So who knows, we shall see. Alright, we are going to be back right after a quick break.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome. It is Sam again, and now we are going to be talking about, instead of the positives of having ducks as a pet, we're going to kind of lead into the negative part of having ducks as pets. So for one thing, I just want to jump in and just kind of tell another little story about me and ducks. Well, it's not really a story, but I typically have like a a ringtone that is of a duck quacking. That's how much I love ducks. And I actually do have little figurines of ducks. I know I sound crazy, don't I? But either way, I need this wake-up call. But the problem with ducks is that they're messy and they have a ton of noise pollution. And, well, they aren't as cute, well, to some people, when they're all grown up. So I just have to say that there's a different type of cuteness when it comes to like a baby animal becoming a grown-up animal. Like, for instance, Reggie, she was small and adorable. She liked to cuddle all the time, and she took naps all the time, and her eyes were just a cute little bluish gray color. Anyway, like, ducklings, they have those really cute features too, you know, all fuzzy and stuff. But yeah, they do grow up. But Reggie now is cute because of, well, just the little tricks that she knows, and she also still has her cute little bark. She has a relationship with us now, and she is, you know, she's still learning her place in our little pack, but she feels secure in it. Now, for ducks in general, I can't say much out of my own experience, but from what I see, ducks are actually quite adorable, even as grown ducks. And the thing is, though, that they get bigger, they get louder, and then they're like, I don't know, like 7 times their size once they grow up. Still, ducks are pretty fantastic. But yeah, cute things like ducklings, you know for a fact that is going to be cute. When you get to older animals, well, they might kind of lose that cute factor, but they kind of compensate for other things, with other things, like just the closeness that you can have. Like, I'll go ahead and say that, I absolutely hated the chickens at the state fair where I live at. And I was just, they're so mean. But ducks that I, actually scratched that. I ran into a very mean duck one time when I was, in first grade. Yeah. But there's a very big change when anyone grows up. So it's a lot of adapting, and you have to also consider, well, they're big now. What do big people do? Well, they kind of do whatever they want, for one thing. And for ducks in particular, yeah, since they're not as cute anymore, the pooping is going to be a really big problem. They're quite messy little creatures all around where they're staying at any time, any day, they are pooping. So, and I promise you, it's everywhere. So if you don't have like a big piece of land that they can hang out on, like those enclosures that you make for them, well, you're gonna see a ton of just their poop laying about. But, I go back to the other segment. You can use that manure for gardening or for farming in general. But gosh, it's like my apartment complex, that one I was living when we had all those ducks and geese. Just everywhere that we walked, like the sidewalks when we were walking roadie, it was just full of goose and duck droppings. And I just can't handle that. And even when you decide, okay, we're going to have a little place for you to swim around, that little pool that you make for them, well, it's going to be pretty nasty because, well, ducks are messy. So you have to be prepared for that. Ducks are serious business, and you need to make sure that there's a level of cleanliness so that it's good for you, but also for the ducks. Like, you need to make sure you maximize their state of health. Now, there is also the other thing where maybe they do have, like an actual large body of water. So, I mean, they get to act more freely And that might also kind of pull back on the duck droppings. But hey, the next thing though, this is, maybe you can tolerate that. Your neighbors could definitely tolerate your duck just kind of swimming around in a little pool. But then there's noise pollution. Yes. Now, we have neighbors in our neighborhood, well, who actually have chickens. And chickens and ducks are very different, but, like, they have, like, a little, coop in the front yard, which, I mean, that's kind of strange. But, yeah, they had a lot of chickens running around, and, well, you start hearing, like, the clucking. We don't have a rooster in our neighborhood, thank goodness, but yeah, you still hear the clucking if you live close to them, and we're just far enough that, you know, we don't have to worry about it. But if you have a duck, there is going to be a very, very possible thing that they are going to be quacking, and they are loud. So you might not care about it, because, well, I wouldn't care. I love the sound of ducks quacking. But, I don't know. The major thing about ducks is that they're very social, and they like to communicate as well. And it's a very hard thing to really grasp sometimes, because, well, humans can be loud too. But I see people, like, you know, calling the police because there's, like, a noise problem, but overall, like, I think humans are louder than ducks, to be honest, but hey, I don't know. But yeah, your neighbors could very well be very bothered by the quacking, and who knows what time of day it's gonna be at. Well, most of the ducks that I have seen have disappeared in the night, so there's that. But you can't really hope that that's going to happen all the time. And I mean, it's going to take a lot of effort and probably brownies to get your neighbor to warm up to them. Or you could even give them a discount to these duck eggs that they'll be laying. And maybe, or you could just give it to them for free just to kind of placate them. It's just, gosh, I am fine with ducks quacking, but some people, like, I have a neighbor across the street that is very particular about noise. So if I had ducks, I would probably be getting a phone call from her or a knock on the door from her to tell me to make those ducks be quiet. But that's okay, because, well, I'll go ahead and say it's not about you, and I'm not even talking about the ducks this time. I'm talking about your neighbors. It's not about you whether or not you get a duck or not, or ducks, because they're social creatures. But you really have to make sure that prior to having these ducks, you know what the city allows and what your neighbors, you know, your neighbor's temperament, for instance. Like, do they accept loud noises? Do they maybe even accept the nasty poops that they leave around your yard? And it's gonna get nasty. But that's up to you. Again, it's not about you. Your neighbors might smell that duck poop everywhere. So you have to take on a very good amount of responsibility to make sure that you and your ducks will be fine in your neighborhood. And hey, if you are in a farm, that's great. But now back to my student. I can't believe that she had, like, a single duck in her apartment building. And I know the area that she lives in. And there's not a lot of space in that apartment for a duck to really enjoy itself. So I kind of wonder, like, how many people do this with ducks. Like, they see a duck, they think it's great. Oh my gosh, let's raise this duck. And you don't really consider, what does the duck need? Now, I'm gonna throw PETA in here because, well, they do make a really good point. There are some people that adopt, well, quote unquote, adopt ducks and they give them the wrong food or just scraps of food, like some random veggies, and they don't consider the nutritional value that they need. Then there are also going to be single ducks in your in this apartment, because you know what's going to happen if you have multiple ducks in an apartment. It's going to be very, very clear. And also, apartments have great old fees for, pets. And then, of course, the poop, which is taken care of with a diaper, I guess. But overall, it's a cramped area where a duck can't be a duck. So you're creating a lot of social anxiety. You're not letting them live the life that they should. And unless you're able to give that to them, then you really need to seriously consider those things. So, are they allowed because of city ordinances? Are they going to bother my neighbors? Will my neighbors be forgiving for that? All that kind of stuff. And I would definitely recommend, if you get one duck, you better get maybe 2 or 3 ducks, to help it be happy. Just gonna say. But, I'm done rambling about the bad things about ducks, because ducks aren't really that bad, to be honest. And yeah, I'll probably be the person to, own a bunch of ducks in our old age. Not the cat lady or anything, but the duck lady. And I'm okay with that, unless my husband, continues to be alive. No, that sounds horrible. I'm not trying to kill my husband. I'm just thinking, if he lives with me for an extended period of time, for several years, he will probably see my duck collection of real ducks. Or he'll make me stop. Whichever. But anyway, we are going to go on another break, and, well, we're going to talk about how to really take care of your ducks. And, talk about, well, what kind of food should you be giving your ducks and stuff. Because, well, I did reference that they need a particular type of food. It's not easy. So, we'll be right back, and enjoy the commercial break.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
So, let's think back to a time that we were disappointed by something we had great expectations for. And, well, just the normal day kind of stuff, not any of the big explosions of this day and age, let's say. Well, for me, I was at a grocery store, and I saw a bottle of wine that had a nice little mallard duck on it. And, well, I wanted it, and I wanted to try it because, well, a duck is on there. I hope it's good. Well, I go home, and I am absolutely disappointed, and I hate that a duck is related to this type of wine, or it's an icon for this wine. And, well, I will never drink wine that has poultry on it ever again, because, well, I don't want to be less saddened again. But anyway, we were just talking about the negative side of having a duck of your own, and, well, a pet duck, and also the positive part of it. So we are going to talk about, well, how to take care of your pet duck because at this point now in this section, you have probably decided that you are going to have a duck or you're not going to have a duck. And hopefully by this time you have decided to talk to your HOA, your wife, your girlfriend, a husband, well, basically any partner. And then also talking to maybe your landlord too to see if this is okay. So there has to be a conversation before you even get to this point. And, well, I mean, once you cross all of those barriers, you are now ready to prepare for your duck. Now, the major thing, and I'm thinking about this game that I was talking about last episode, and, well, they had like a nice little coop that you could, start building in for all of your animals. There were like little barns or coops just to keep them in. And, well, you will definitely need a coop for your ducks. Like, it's mostly to help against predators. It kind of really depends on the area that you live in, but hey, if my cat gets out, he will probably, if Eisen gets out, I'm sorry, he will probably go straight around to where he sees vulnerable food, because he's a hunter still. He will probably get one of those chickens from my neighbors. So you really have to think about what do you need to do to keep your ducks safe. And a duck coop is very important. So in this duck coop, you really need to think about the floor space and also, well, the entryway. So you don't really want to have a coop that has such a large, that has a large entryway, but you have to do a little jump to get into it. Yeah, ducks can't really jump. So, probably having like an entryway that is closer to the ground would be more beneficial. And then you also have to think, okay, for this flooring, there's going to be, a bit of water, because ducks need water. And they splash around on it and they play, and it's so cute. But yeah, that's going to ruin the flooring for the coop, so you need to add some extra protections to it. So, for instance, you will have to get waterproof flooring and waterproof bedding material too. So, one thing you can do, linoleum is great, tarps, or even a rubberized floor, to use in it. That could probably be very helpful. Now, I don't know very much about ducks and how to take care of them, which is very unfortunate. So this episode is actually quite educating for me. So in addition to having a lot of floor space, because ducks go around and they, eat and they poop, eat and poop. That's all they do, it feels like. But yeah, you want to make sure you have a layer of soft wood chips. Or, maybe instead you could get, recycled paper, and this will allow the bedding to be like absorbent, and it'll also help with absorbing any extra water that maybe your flooring didn't really catch. So you want to make sure that your duck coop doesn't like have their floor just kind of get soaked and like collapse. We don't want that. And, well, that kind of means that you need to have some other form of source of water for your ducks. And you can always go into a general store, or a grocery store or something, and get like a tub that you can, basically fill up with water and just have it available to your ducks when they're allowed outside. And, well, I mean, again, this kind of goes back to the messy little poops that they have and how dirty they can be. So you'll probably have to change out that water frequently. But hey, have a good tub for your pet duck, because, well, it could mean a lot of saved energy, pretty much. But, like, I would say you can even go and get like a little, like kind of like a pool for a pool the size that you would usually get a dog, like, those little baby pools. And that could actually help too. So what I have to say then is that you need to make sure they have like an enclosed yard, but outside of that yard, outside of the duck coop, you're going to need to have some sort of swimming tub. They say tub here, not pool. But I'm pretty sure you get the idea. So there's also going to be, well, what kind of duck food do I get for my duck? Well, I would say, well, kind of depends on what's available to you, and also what is good for the duck. So I'll actually get to talking about that more in the next section, actually. But you need to make sure, like, that is nutritional for the duck, and something that tastes good and is healthy for them. That would be really great for them. But hey, I really do think that those two things, are probably the most important thing. I mean, my Reggie and Cookie and Eisen are all about, like, what tastes good. So that's actually why Cookie tries to eat Reggie's food all the time, and that's very frustrating. But yeah, it's just, well, what do you give your pets to nom on when you're doing feeding time, basically? And from there, it's kind of like a, well, should I or should I not give them treats? Because sometimes you kind of go overboard, and, well, I would say always just read the description. But hey, that is what we are going to be talking about in the next section. I do have to say that with all of this in mind, you need to think, well, are you ready now to own a duck as a pet? Not as food, as a pet. Because, well, they can be a very interesting and fun little novelty for some people, but they might become just that, novelties. And you really do need to think about, well, the expenses that goes into it, because ducks are actually quite more expensive than chickens. And, well, also, it is a good moneymaker. I hate saying that, but, it lays a good amount of eggs during the year, and you want to make sure that you are able to use those eggs so that, well, other people can enjoy them, or you can enjoy them. Or you can always get more ducks. I'm not really sure what to say about that. But, it's a very big adventure for you, especially when you decide, okay, I'm going to have this duck in my home, and we are going to take care of it, and it's going to be happy, and I'm going to name him, I don't know. Let's say Anton. Yeah, Anton. We'll call him Anton, the duck. Because, well, oh my gosh, there was a Sonic the Hedgehog character from years ago that had a duck that was named Anton, I believe. Yeah, I think so. Either way, it's kind of weird. He was supposed to be French. So, I guess maybe he was a duck? I just don't know anymore, though. I'll probably back check myself and maybe let you guys know. But aside from that, well, we're going to go on that quick break and, well, just enjoy.
Is weird, odd, strange, or just plain bizarre is really your cup of tea? Then the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast will give you that fix. Can't believe it? Well, listen for yourself as we deliver the strangest news.
So while I was on break, I was just kind of thinking about something that I wanted to tell you guys, and I don't know how many of you use Twitter regularly, but there is actually a Twitter account that's basically posting pictures of ducks, like ducks daily, pretty much. And you see a lot of different kind of waterfowl just kind of being adorable. I think all ducks are pretty adorable. So, I mean, maybe you won't agree, but there are plenty of pictures that you can go through. I believe now every single day they've been doing it. So, on that side, I mean, we're still going to talk more about ducks, don't worry. Because, well, we talked about, like, how to care for them and the good and bad of it. Let's let's talk about how to feed them. Well, or what food should we be feeding our ducks if you choose to have ducks. Now, one thing I just want to start off with what not to feed your ducks. And any kind of medicated feeds that are made for other species, that could very well be toxic to your ducks, so you don't want to do that. So do not feed oyster shell to non-laying duck eggs, and definitely not to drakes, male ducks. And this could also lead to kidney disease if those ducks and the drakes get into that. And of course, I always feel like we run into this and I get frustrated, but don't give your ducks or any other pet moldy or spoiled food. I mean, I would think that would be kind of common sense, but apparently this website that I'm looking at right now feels that it needs to be said, which means somebody has done it, or many people have done it in the past, and it just needs to be addressed. But, as I said, well, taking care of a duck when it comes to their food is actually pretty, I wouldn't say easy, but it just makes sense. So you want to know what kind of healthy diets are there for ducks. And it really depends on, the age of the duck. So is it a duckling? Is it adolescent? Also, well, is it laying eggs or is it not laying eggs? Is it male or female? All this stuff just kind of makes feeding the duck a little bit different. Like a lot of sectioning off, it feels like. So if you're going to be doing something for just your ducks in general, they need good nutrition. And there's some people that try to use chicken feed for their ducks. And I'll be honest, that is not really responsible, because chicken feed is called chicken feed for a specific reason. Like senior dog food is senior dog food for a reason. You don't give a puppy like senior dog food because they don't get the same nutrients that they need. Like puppy food, it is like packed full of protein, whereas as you get older, as the dog gets older, then it has other special needs. And that's the same thing with ducks versus chickens. There has to be something that will actually take care of the bodily needs, the biological needs. So you want to make sure that you have something that can be fed. Fred. That is another duck name that I'll think about now. But you need to make sure that they are fed something that's crumpled or pelleted, and it's going to have to, again, fit that nutritional need. So just kind of a diet for specifically waterfowl. So there's something called Marzuri feeds made by Purina that could definitely be a help. And there are also local feed stores that they don't carry this brand in particular, but they may be able to order it for you. Also, you could always feed them non-medicated pellet designed for chickens or parrots. So you need to make sure that the food can be basically clean of anything that could cause disruption in their system. And I mean, when we talk about, again, the ducklings, the adolescent ducks, when they're all small and so cute, well, they're not going to be producing many eggs at this point in time. But just like puppies, they grow fast, for one thing. And that means that they need high protein and high calories just to keep up with, the growth, pretty much. And, well, maybe for the first 3 weeks of their life, that'll be like a starter diet. And then as they grow, you start adjusting it. And, I'm sure that a lot of the feeds for ducks and chickens, they have that information so that you know what's going into their food. But when it comes to ducks and drakes and, well, non-laying ducks and then drakes, they are definitely not going to be producing eggs, of course. So basically they should be fed what they call a maintenance diet of, 14% protein. So while a laying ration is critical to the health of the laying eggs, the diet is far too high in calcium and protein for like a drake or a non-laying duck. So you want to be careful with that. So be aware of the function of your duck, pretty much. So you could always just start, when you decide to maybe retire a duck to become a non-laying duck, that's fine. You then change the diets. So for the laying ducks, there's, they need to have like high calcium and high protein, like very high, so that they can be able to lay eggs and, healthy eggs, pretty much. Ones that won't crack or break so easily, and also just so that they don't face any other complications of laying eggs. So then it comes into treats, and I imagine that a lot of people have, let's kind of talk about a rabbit, for instance. Like you've been presented online on media in general that, rabbits like carrots, right? Or they like their veggies. Well, you have to do some research because it's not that easy. And again, I'm going to say it's not that easy, and having a pet requires you to do the research that is needed to make them have the best life possible. So, just kind of there. Now, when it comes to ducks, you kind of think of I'm going to give the duck at the lake some bread for them to chew on. Don't give them the bread because it's not really nutritious for them. So, I mean, that's kind of a big thing that I always remember. Giving ducks in general, bread is going to be kind of detrimental to their health. Now, in large quantities. So now when it comes to just treats in general for them, you want to make sure you have small amounts, just like any other pet that you have. You don't want to give your pet a ton of treats every single day. It's going to spoil their meal times, and chances are those treats are cram full of calories and nutrition that they might not need. Eisen, when he was a younger boy, he had gained so much weight because we weren't really monitoring how much treats he was getting and how much he was eating. He got very heavy at some point. So you want to make sure that you're very careful about that. Now, ducks love foods like corn and carrots and greens, but the problem is that these foods alone don't really hit the requirements of calcium and protein for them. So this is for laying ducks in particular, but for other ducks, that's still true. These people food, I'll say, does not have enough nutrition for your ducks in general. So you want to make sure that you have a diet that kind of encompasses all of that. And that's going to require research again. So, I mean, there's also the fun plus side to it. And it's, just having your ducks just hanging out in the yard and having them, eat all the pests. So that's one thing. But you're going to be also making sure that there's no pesticide in your yard. Because, you don't want to kill your ducks. Most definitely not. And also, this is something that's always very charming for me. I think about Babe again, with how the duck is trying to show him how to be ferocious with the sheep. And he he opens his mouth, the duck does, and you see just no teeth whatsoever. It's not very intimidating. So, because of this, because ducks don't have actual teeth to start grinding down their food, you gotta give them something called grit. And those are little stones or pieces of maybe an oyster shell, so that it'll help grind down the food to make it easier for them to ingest. So yeah, different little stones that they have, laying around in the yard, that is helpful for them to. And then there's also the oyster shell that you can definitely give to them to help them chew up all this food. But you're definitely not going to feed, like, food that is designed for another species. You're not going to give cat food to a duck. No, definitely not. You're going to make sure that you have large bags of food, especially if you have large quantities of animals, and you're going to make sure that you basically organize it in a way that you can give it to your pets with the hopes that is basically at the top of a good mix for your nutritional value. So again, this is all about, well, basically thinking about your pet, doing the research. I mean, there are a lot of people that I know of that are essentially very educated dog owners, cat owners, and, well, there are definitely people around like that. And they've become actually one of the best pet owners that I've ever met. And I would definitely see, like, someone that would have a duck that is like a very educated person. They would basically find ways to maximize the duck's life, which, I mean, that is something you definitely have to consider. But yeah, I just kind of, man, all this kind of stuff, you can find it online, basically, but you want to make sure, again, that you check your resources, check the sources of the information. I'm an English teacher. I go on about this all the time to my students. So do your research. Find the information that you need, but also be sure to check the sources of that information. Because, well, some people aren't very well educated in this and they still want to talk about it. So I'll go ahead and say that for me, I always go do my research, and then I also check the sources of information so that, what I say has some credibility to it. Versus, let's see, who else? I can't think of anyone in particular that doesn't really do their research. But if you wanted to have a balanced idea of what to expect when it comes to feed, raising, you'll want to also have, like, that other side of, well, what are the contrasting ideas of this and what is their arguments, basically. And that this is not an English class. I'm so sorry, guys. But yeah, you want to make sure that you're doing what's best for your pets and also for you. But anyway, we got a break coming up and, well, I'm trying to think. I think I want to talk about, well, duck nesting and probably talking about breeding a little bit, but also, more importantly, how do you get a duck into your family? So we'll be right back after this commercial break.
The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast, the show that gives you advice on everything travel. We explore places you've always wanted to go, as well as giving tips for traveling in those places. We'll give you advice on the best sites for travel tips, information, and discounts. Join us as we travel the world, explore cultures, and meet new people. The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast has got you covered. Download the GSMC Travel Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back, and we were just talking about feeding your ducks. For some reason I'm thinking of chickens now, and it's probably because of the little vine of this girl, like, a long time ago, like, gesturing to a bunch of geese, I think. And she said, "Look at all these chickens." I actually follow her on TikTok now, which is pretty cool. But, yeah, what do we do now with ducks? How do we get ducks? since, well, we want to adopt one now. Well, you can go, well, arguably different ways. One that I definitely wouldn't recommend is taking an egg from a nest, because, well, I don't think you have, maybe I'm wrong, I would assume that is kind of negligible of what the egg needs. But who knows, you may have like warming lamps or something like that to help them like basically incubate, all that kind of stuff. It's very hard to really say that it's okay to take eggs from a nest, to be honest. And there's so much better ways. And again, when it comes to like, babies, like human babies they need certain things from their birth mother, at the very beginning of their life. But that kind of goes the same thing with most animals. Like the mother is, I referenced the mother bear pretty much, and you want to make sure that you don't step on any toes, or I guess what do you call them? Like the duck feet, but you don't want to step on them either. So it kind of leads to the point, well, where do you get your ducks? Funny thing is, I did a search on Google, and there are actually plenty of people that are selling ducks, just, maybe because maybe they decided to have some ducks like actually, grow up a little bit, and now they're looking for a home for them. So, I mean, there's that. That could always be it. But then it gets into like, well, if we wanted to go and find ducks, well, the great thing is that there are classifieds and like internet searches that you can do. I'm trying to see, like there is, let's see, ducks nesting in your backyard. Yeah, never touch a nest. Please don't touch a nest. Leave it be. Because, well, ducks aren't really, I haven't seen a duck freak out before, but you've seen geese, right? They are very angry guys during the springtime because, well, they're protecting their eggs, and they just kind of hiss and they start swinging their wings at you, and then, they suddenly hit your dog. This happened to Rhodey, honestly. A goose just kind of smacked him right across the head because, well, he got too close. So it's not just about you, it's about your other animals and also about the ducks or goose, whichever. But you want to make sure that you don't disrupt the life of non-domesticated animals, because, well, you tend to get them angry if you do that. Now, I was kind of looking around for, well, what do you need to do to help if you do have a duck? Like, where do they make their nests? And, they need to be near water, of course, and you want to make sure that that the nests are, covered in, vegetation, or maybe it's in a natural hole in a tree. But, let's see. How long does it take? Well, how long does a duck sit on her eggs before they hatch? And they say 28 days. So you have 28 days to protect this group of eggs from any predators, I can't even call humans predators, but they're a separate thing on their own. I've seen some terrible things that has happened to little duck eggs and stuff. But yeah, just stay away from them. They're part of nature. They have their own lives. And if you decide to go maybe to a farmer or you call a farmer or some sort of breeder, you could always get more information on what you can do to adopt a duck and let it have the maximum enjoyment of their life. So, how do you know if a duck egg is alive? All these questions here, it's very interesting to ask, And let's see, it says here, to determine if your eggs contain a living embryo, the most critical feature is the veins. If you see clear, distinct veins, it is probably alive. If you don't, then, well, it's probably not. So by day 12 of this incubation period, well, that is generally when you kind of like start to get an idea of, well, I can hold it in my hand and just allow it to have some of its own movement, pretty much. Now, whenever I think of ducks, I also think of geese, and geese are such jerks to ducks. Ducks are so nice. They're adorable, and they have cute little ducklings on them, and then you have geese that have gosling. I'm sorry, I have a very big problem with geese because they're so mean. Versus the duck, I mean, I just don't know. But of course, when it comes to, adopting a duck, you also need to then start thinking, okay, which doctor do I need to go to which vet do I need to go to make sure that they're healthy? There are a lot of responsibilities. A duck is a duck when they're out on their own. But the second that you decide to take ownership of the duck's life, well, its health, its need for stimulation, its need for protection, that is now on you. And hopefully whoever or whenever a duck comes into your space, well, hopefully you'll be more aware of this. But yeah, let's get back to talking about getting ducks. Honestly, you can't. I have to say that I've always been very tempted during the state fair to be like, oh, can I have one of these duckies? Because they're so cute and they're in the little heated cage and stuff. And I'm like, they're so cute and they waddle about. But at that point, well, what am I going to be able to offer this little creature? I don't know anything about it. And that's why you need to do research. You have to do research before you do any life-changing kind of actions. So for you, it's life-changing because you're getting a duck. But for that duck, it's also quite life-changing too. So you need to make sure that you can be the very best parent that you can, but also you need to make sure that your duck is nice and healthy and can grow into a mature duck. And also maximize its health. Because, well, there are some people, well, like my student, that lost her duck within 2 years. So that's kind of frightening. Some ducks don't even make it past their little duckling phase, unfortunately. So you have to really start considering, okay, what can I do to help this duck? Maybe even talking to the farmer who raised them would be helpful. But then he'd probably be less inclined to let you buy a duck. So you don't want these things to be novelty. Like how I was talking about the goat, pretty much. So you don't want to make it as novelty as a goat novelty. You want to make sure that you're getting it because you care for it and because you've done your research. I sound like I'm a broken record again, especially when it comes to my own students. I always emphasize the need to research and follow up that research with credibility. So what is a credible source of information that you can take back and say, I trust this. They make sense. Not, oh, I kind of believe what they're saying. You need to make sure that you believe this source. But, anyway, I'm sorry. I've just kind of gotten down a terrible little rabbit hole, pretty much, for talking about, English teacher stuff. But you can definitely apply things from English class to your daily life decisions. Well, in other ways, maybe business, but primarily, I'm going to have to say, English is in the humanities. Humanities kind of covers a lot of, personal stuff. Not personal as in, keeping a secret from people because, well, it's personal for you and you don't want to tell them. It's more of you are interacting with other beings and you have to be knowledgeable and sensitive, all that kind of stuff. But this is not an English class. I'm so sorry. So now, what am I going to talk about? Because we're on our last section, right? Oh, I know. It's going to be about progress with Reggie. So we'll be right back after this commercial break, and then I'll talk about my good little girl.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's GSMCpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back, and we are at our last section, and I wanted to talk about my little Reggie because, well, she has made so much progress, especially since she's had that cone on her for a good while now, but her claw is finally healing up. You can start seeing it growing now, because for a time it just was like a little nub at the end of her little toe, and it was really sad. But she had, before I get started on this, she had basically decided that anything that she could not access with her cone, she would start crying like a little girl. Well, like a little girl dog. So it was very sad, but also started getting frustrating because we also had the bell that she would ring whenever she needed to go outside. She started abusing it, and I have no idea, how to change that. So it's something that I have to figure out by, I don't know, at least by the end of the summer, I guess. But yeah, overall, it's not just her, but it's also Cookie's reactions too. Reggie is a puppy. She likes to play, and she likes to see if Cookie will play with her. Most of the time, Cookie is just a flat out no. She does not want to deal with her. Well, here's the great thing. Reggie is starting to communicate with Cookie more during their little back and forths. Reggie stops playing, she just kind of starts talking to her with her little whimpers and yelps and stuff. It's not bad. They're not fighting. But, well, Cookie thinks they're fighting because she's always growling and stuff, and she wants to be left alone. But, Reggie is not pushing as hard as she used to. So, and this is mostly because I don't know. My husband and I have just decided to not really intervene unless absolutely necessary. And we also extend timeouts to Cookie now because, well, she needs a timeout sometimes because she's kind of nasty at times. So we basically do a countdown 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Before we hit 0, we ask, do you want to have a timeout? At least it's for Reggie. Cookie has one strike, she's out, pretty much. So, in this case, it's kind of like a nice little refreshing thing to see Reggie becoming calmer, pretty much, in this general situation. I wish she'd calm down for Eisen now, but Cookie is definitely one of those obstacles that she needed to get over. And she's mostly over it. Sometimes she gets so excited that she just kind of darts around and she uses Cookie as a hurdle. And, well, that of course ends poorly because, well, Cookie is sensitive. And, well, when I say that, we gave her a trim this morning actually. And she has these little benign tumors on her chest, and she's very sensitive to being groomed around there. So today we actually tried to do it again, And it worked out pretty well. We had to take frequent breaks to make sure that she wouldn't get so angry at us. But I'm kind of amazed at how Cookie has progressed, how she has started trusting us. And, in the same way that she has kind of started trusting Reggie more. But that still requires us to train Reggie on, well, not to steal food from Cookie. I don't know what it is with Reggie, but she feels like all food belongs to her. And it could be that she's just a growing puppy. Maybe we need to do something. I'd love to hear what everyone else has to say about it. But sometimes I don't know. We basically rely on the baby gate between the kitchen and the living room to keep everyone separate. Reggie will eat Cookie's food. Cookie will eat Reggie's food. Cookie will eat Eisen's food. Eisen will eat Cookie's food. So it's a very confusing kind of configuration here. But I just kind of wish that Reggie would not learn faster, but I guess kind of calm down, go from the 10 that she's always at and maybe come down to a 6.5. That would be so much more manageable sometimes, especially when you're juggling taking care of your cat and your other dog, pretty much, because, well, Reggie is always there and she's always gonna want attention, and that could be my fault. It really could be my fault, but, I'm trying not to spoil her, but it's so hard because she's so adorable and so cute. You've seen the pictures of her on Instagram. What am I supposed to do? Well, put my foot down. Yeah, absolutely. Because parents don't do that. Well, parents shouldn't let their children become little spoiled brats that just irritates everyone around them. So, it's kind of like a lesson for me. So, as I have said in the past, it's consistency, and also, for me, it's not all about me, and I have to recognize that. I project a lot of stuff on Reggie when it comes to Rhodey. She looks kind of similar to him, and I have such a soft spot for her. And I wish that I could not be as soft on her as I am right now. But she is getting, the idea of timeout. She actually willingly goes to timeout. So now I need to figure out, well, is that good or bad? Or do I need to find another method of giving her timeouts? So there's that. But Reggie overall has gotten so much better. She behaves more when she has the cone on, but ever since, well, I guess last night was the first night that she didn't have the cone on. She was very rambunctious, but as the night went on, she started calming down, and you gotta reward that, pretty much. But there's still kind of a time period where we have to get used to her not wearing that cone anymore, and she just looks so cute with the cone on, and also without the cone. She looks like a different dog now, actually. I think she may have grown a lot during the time that we've had the cone on her, which has been about 2 weeks, I think. And that was mostly because, well, she kept on licking at her wound on her claw, so yeah, we had to manage, because sometimes I would be out of the house, sometimes my husband would be out of the house, but then it's also nighttime. She doesn't sleep in the same room with us anymore because she has territorial tendencies, which we're trying to fix too. Having a puppy is so exhausting. Oh my god. So you want to keep that in mind in case one of your children says, can we have a puppy? Because you, as a parent, will be the ones taking care of it, not the kids. Because, well, the kids aren't really sure how to, well, just from my own perspective, from what I've seen, kids don't understand the fine line between, fun and the seriousness of growing up. And I feel like that's the same thing for Reggie. She's starting to get an idea that fun does not always mean that everyone else is having fun. And, well, I guess she started to learn that from Cookie, which I guess I can say, hooray, Cookie, you've taught Reggie something. But for the most part, Cookie is a really mean dog. But anyway, I wish Eisen was here so he could say a nice little goodbye to us, but he's just mad at me still. But yeah, Reggie has done a lot better. She needs to get better with Eisen, and again, like with a puppy, it's always going to be trial and error. It's going to be like failure after failure after failure, just when it comes to training in general. So you have to persevere when it comes to like taking care of a puppy, even like another older dog. But puppies, like, they have baseline nothing to work off of. They're learning the world, like, pretty much. Like older dogs, they have an idea of what the world's like, what people are like, but puppies, depending on their exposure, that's going to be a huge thing in how you start raising them and how you include them in your family. And I guess that's okay. We know that Reggie is actually afraid of storms, so we're kind of afraid that she was traumatized through a storm, like before we got her. So there's that. But overall, it's kind of like, it's always going to be a work in progress. Like, for instance, people, they're not going to be perfect. They're always a work in progress. And we have to understand that for our pets too. Whether it be a dog, cat, boa constrictor, please don't show me any pictures of boa constrictors. Scorpions, don't show me any pictures of scorpions because they scare me. But yeah, it's all a work in progress. And I really want you guys to know that, well, in the end, it is very worth it. Like, the days that Reggie does amazing is probably going to be one of your happiest moments of the day. Just realizing that you were able to teach this dog or raise this dog and nurture them to becoming wonderful little creatures to have in your house. But anyway, I just wanted to thank you guys for tuning into the GSMC Pets Podcast. Again, we were brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Now, I'm hoping that you guys will definitely consider a lot of the things that I've said about owning a pet duck. And you really, you have to make sure that you're ready for it. It's the same thing with being ready for another dog after other circumstances have happened. So, anyway, I'm going to wish you guys a wonderful night. And, well, thank you. We really want you to subscribe and review. Check us out on Twitter and on Instagram and Facebook, all that kind of stuff. We want to know what you guys think. And, well, I want to hear more pet stories from you guys. All right. Well, you have a wonderful night. Thank you.
You've been listening to the GSMC Pets Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's podcast.